We're waiting on a couple, but I believe they are both people who let me know that they're going to be
I did share it with you, but you said you didn't want to use it, so I was okay with that.
that they're going to be a couple minutes late. So I think everyone should be here tonight. I don't think anybody has said they're not here at all. And really kind of welcome to the beginning of the end. Um, in that once we have our presentations done tonight and turned in, assuming that everything up to now you've been keeping up with, we're basically done with the class. Next week's meeting is going to be brief for those of you that are just in this class. I do have probably a half an hour to 45 minutes worth of stuff that I just want to go over in terms of recapping and putting some closure on everything and getting some feedback from you. I just learned that I guess the course evaluations they're doing online, which they didn't even bother to necessarily let us know that. They had left a packet here of all the course evaluations, so I was just assuming we were doing it like we always did, and I was going to hand them out. But I guess that's now all electronic. So, and some people I guess have already completed them. So you don't if you've got did they send out an email about it? It was 3 emails. Oh, so there you go. So you don't need to wait to complete those. One of the things I am going to have you do next week is do a small version of that, but just for me, because I do eventually get to see those forms, but it may not be until next fall, and I'm not going to remember what we did by then because actually, I don't remember last week from this week. But
it did say that once we put ours in and you put your grades in for us, then
I'll have access to it. So there we go. It's better all around. But in any case, I want to also gather some information for both of the classes because I was kind of thrown into teaching these classes somewhat at the last minute, and I will be teaching them again next year. So of course I'm interested from a growth mindset standpoint of getting some feedback from you about the course from that perspective too. So we will have some things to take care of next week, but like I said, for those of you that are only in this class, we start at 5. You guys should be able to get out of here around 5:45 probably at the latest. So it's going to be a short week. Those of you who are also in the 520 class, we will then be staying on, getting the final 2 presentations in here and doing that course wrap up. But my goal is to have everybody out of here by 7:30 so that I'm not taking up any more of anybody's time than we would have normally. And if I haven't said it or if I even need to say it, there is no exam for this course. So the following week, which is technically the exam week, I mean, we're done after next week. So there's nothing you got to do the final week. So this is kind of the beginning of the end. So tonight is really about presenting your games and getting a chance to kind of show off your work that you've done and share a little bit about the process you went through and all of that kind of good stuff. And that's pretty much going to be it with 4 groups going 25, 30 minutes or so per group. That'll take up, the majority of the evening. We'll wrap up a little bit and then go about our merry way from tonight. All right, so I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, there was one thing from Dr. Abed. For any of you who have a CCSU laptop and are not keeping it for a summer class, he just reminded me to remind you to bring him in next week so that he can collect those. So I guess if you have any questions about whether you're keeping it or not, just get in touch with him directly. But he does need to collect any machines that I guess are not being used over the summer and so on. So he did just want me to share that bit of information with you. And I think that was it. So, all right. So, yeah, in terms of tonight, I'm basically just going to turn the floor over to each group. I've given you the information over the last couple of weeks about the structure of the presentations. There's sort of 4 main areas to hit. You did not need to create a PowerPoint or anything like that, but if you've got one, you can certainly feel free to use the computer up here to do that. And however your group has decided to structure your presentation is fine. It doesn't have to be one person doing each of the 4 things, whatever you guys came up with, as long as we just hit all the bases. All right. So it does not matter to me which groups go in what order. I know we are missing a couple people. I don't know, are they both from the same? It's probably one person from two different groups. So we'll wait on those two groups, but so maybe between the two groups who are completely here.
Who wants to go first?
We will.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can we
All
use
right.
your computer?
Yes, you may. You have a PowerPoint?
It's on
Or-
Google Drive, so can we just open a tab?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
There you go.
Thank
And
you.
I will get out of the way.
Beat it, Dr. Miller. Taking over. Mutiny.
Oh yeah, you'll have to log in.
I'm sitting there. They can stay if they want.
Force of habit. Do you want me to start while you were logging in? All right. You said to the 4 areas were your problem, the elements of the game, how did it go, and reflections. Correct? That's the area. Okay. The problem that we want to address is I teach freshman English, and I do a unit on Greek mythology. My students were having trouble remembering certain details like plot, character, the names, the morality, the theme, and things like that. So we wanted to create a game. Our original great game was this huge endeavor, which we thought we could tackle. It was going to be a board game, and it was going to combine the elements of like Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly, and Sorry. What students would have to do is they would have to go around a board answering trivia questions, and they would have to collect bands, like in Trivial Pursuit, where you have like arts, entertainment, all things. Well, they would have to do it on each hero: Perseus, Theseus, Heracles, and Odysseus, and they would have to collect 6 bands, the 4 heroes and 2 of the gods. They would have to go around the board and eventually come up to Mount Olympus. Our ambiguity was going to be, these chance cards where if you land on a monster card, you'd have to go back to start, or you'd have to knock someone off, or you'd have to, lose a turn, or things like that. And the monsters that were incorporated in the stories, like Medusa or the Hydra, or any of these, were the ones that would have to send you back.
You all know those, right?
So as we were
know
creating,
Medusa, but-
we're like, okay, you do the board, and it was like, oh my God.
It was a
like,
lot.
It got
overwhelming.
overwhelming, and we're like, we're going to have to simplify because this would be, a year-long process.
Yep.
So we wanted to keep all the elements of the game, whereas, the questions, the chance and the ambiguity and like who are you going to choose, and we decided on doing a version of like Hollywood Squares. And I'm probably like the oldest person in this class, so I don't know if any of you are familiar with do you know the game of Hollywood Squares?
yeah.
Okay. So
Tic-tac-toe.
so basically
We should have gotten
and
a little thing and shown
please
that.
like if I'm talking too much.
We
jump
also
in.
wanted to make sure more people were involved.
The whole
So,
class.
so if we had the panel, that would give us 9 extra players as opposed to
like
whatever
teams
teams
of
were going.
4 or teams of 6 or
That's good because you involved the entire class.
And we toyed with the idea
one
of
time.
having one of the students read the cards.
So, there are sometimes kids who are uncomfortable either in the group or with, so they would be the game master, or they would. So, breaking it down, it's Hollywood Squares. You have a panel of 9 people who are game players.
Yeah.
And you have it's a grid.
Yeah.
X's and
Here, you
O's.
want to do this?
So
here?
the game master
That's what the seats are, right down
here.
there. So you
So-
can set up your classroom like a tic-tac-toe board, have them stay in their desks, or put stools out, or like you could even do this. Like I know some of your elementary school teachers and such. You could do your own version of it with them sitting on the rug, things like that.
And then the game master ended up asking the questions.
Yeah. So what you do is, kids are always like, "What's fair?" So you always have to have that element of like flipping a coin, not like you get to go first. Well, he went first last time. Flip a coin. That way, it's always fair. And then whoever wins the coin toss, they pick a, something on the grid. Most people pick the center first, and then the game master will take a card, And shall I show the game as we're
Yeah.
going along?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, pull those cards out.
I will pull these cards.
Be the game master.
Mount
Ooh.
Olympus
Ooh.
is shiny.
Only the best for the gods,
I was
you
gonna
know.
say, like, a video.
Pandora's box, if you choose to open it. Okay. So, so our cards look like this, and they're really awesome. So on this side, you have, the Mount Olympus squares, and then you say, how does Hera first try to destroy Heracles? What happens? And you all know that Hera hated all the children of Zeus and mortal women. So she sent the snakes to kill him, and it was not successful because he killed them. So if you chose the panelists said this, and you said, yes, I agree with the answer, you would get, the panelists would hold up
Who'll be the
the,
panel? Okay, an X or an O, depending on who got it correct.
and if you
So-
disagree with the panelists, you can't just say, I disagree. You would have to say, I disagree, and the correct answer is, and then you would get the square.
And I would just like to say that that is one of the things that we got from our alpha,
Yes.
beta,
Who was the one that-
our
One of the
beta
tests.
feedback.
Was that you
One
said
of
that?
us
It was Sarah or
or
Jim.
Jim. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They had
said,
mentioned
wait a
to,
minute, they just have to disagree, and then we're like, you know what, you're right.
because they started saying like kids will just say crazy answers like popsicles, like
Disagree.
or whatever.
Yay, you got the square.
Yeah, I
So-
said that.
Who came up with Frank? Who was, when we did the testing, did someone say that Frank was one of the?
Yeah. So they were just getting told. So we're like, you know what, you're right. They can't get. And then people would
Like
purposely
which god
throw
or
the
whatever,
game.
they're like Frank,
Frank.
or something.
So this way you have five.
What, you mean kids not following the?
It's shocking. I know.
Especially at the high school
Oh,
level,
Yeah.
and when
I
they
know
have
it's hard
friends
to
and stuff.
believe,
So
but
yeah,
yes. So
so that was something we incorporated
So we
in. So that
incorporated
was
from
good.
our testing, so thank you to those who, and you will just continue playing. Another thing that was brought up is if someone did not get the square, could someone else steal? And we said no, because when I did the Jeopardy game in my class, if you got part of the answer and then the stealers will be like, wait a minute, we answered most of that question, like how are they going to get the square of the thing when we were the ones that gave them? So we're like, nope, no stealing. You got to earn it 100% on your own. And then when they got it wrong anyway, it's your turn. So it would go. You'd continue like that until you either got 3 in a row or 5 of the 9 squares with either an X or an O, and then you would be victorious. If time allows, you could play another game. You could either keep the team that you had, or you could start moving things around. And as a teacher, you could do it. Like if you see one team is really strong, you could be like, okay, I'm going to switch things around. You and you are here. You. Or the game master, if someone wants a turn to be like the reader, or the panelist to be the flipper. So you can change it around, you can move it around, and you can modify it to whatever suits your needs in the classroom.
We weren't sure with the timing of things. We weren't sure if you just played one game. So we made it, you can do the best 2 out of 3.
Yep, that was the other way.
If it was, if it went a little bit quicker than we had thought, in terms of trying to,
Yes.
plan for the time.
You wanna-
Yep. So these are the components to the game as she showed you with the cards, and I would just like to say that I was super impressed with the artistic ability of all the ladies in our group. Here is our game flow chart. So Tanya just explained to you kind of like the process of like what would happen. So that's all there. That's also on the wiki page, and we just thought that we would share. Is it okay if we share the animated? Yeah, the quick video. Okay, and this will go over.
Gaming project. EDT 520.
Is
Professor
there a
Miller.
volume on this?
It's on the TV.
Mount Olympus Squares. Review game to help students prepare for their Greek mythology class.
Good?
What you will need. Game master. 9 students to be on the panel. The panel is made in the shape of a tic-tac-toe You'll need 9 X and O game pieces, a coin to flip, a set of Greek mythology trivia cards, students to be on an X or O team. Here's how to play. The game master flips a coin to see who will go first. The team who wins the coin toss chooses the panelist to answer a trivia question. The game master
think that-
reads it to the
He's a little
team
creepy,
who
but.
wins. The panelist
I was gonna say, it's been TV reviews.
Team members confer and will either agree or disagree with the panelist. If the team makes the correct choice and agrees with the correct answer, it disagrees with an incorrect answer and then provides the correct answer, then the team wins the square and they place their X or O in the panelist square.
That's us after class next week.
No.
If they do not make the correct choice, the square is left open and play transfers to the opposing team. Repeat play sequence until one team achieves 3 in a row or occupies 5 of the 9 squares. Final round, continue the game, either keeping the same teams and making the best out of 3, or rotate players.
I don't know why that,
Team
oh, I was gonna
members,
say, where's the music?
Oh.
Thought I
and
played that
the
better.
game master. And begin the game. Good luck. Okay, goodbye. Never use anything.
And that is our presentation.
I will say, as someone who got to play the game, it was a lot of fun.
That's
It was really fun.
Thank you.
that's
I liked
awesome.
it a lot.
How come I can't exit out?
Escape.
Just said it. Okay. I will say that though, like when we first did that Uno flowchart, I was like, man, this is just like our group was all like confuzzled, right? Where we came, we were like, oh my god, there's so many things and but I think that like after going through the process and like figuring it out, it kind of like shows you like where there's points of ambiguity or like where there's choices and like things like that. So
Doing the flow chart.
yeah, after that was, talking about it.
Any questions?
Well, we could talk about the reflection.
Oh, our
Do you wanna-
reflection,
Yeah.
sorry.
So in terms of like group responsibilities, when we first kind of all got together, we definitely all have our different skill set. So I think that it was really nice to like all come together as a group and take on specific responsibilities. Tanya actually had come up with the original idea. Obviously, she's like, the English teacher, so it was her content area. So she was fabulous, and she did all of the cards. And I know nothing. I know a little bit about it, but definitely not to the extent. I thought Heracles was Hercules, and I thought that was a typo. And so, but because I typed them, she made them, but I typed them, and I was like, oh, she must have meant Hercules.
All of these, they're all wrong?
So, there you go.
Basically.
That was the
They are the
they
same
are the
thing.
same, yeah.
So we just kind of all came together and like did our own thing. Like I feel like I'm like more of like a task oriented person, so I was like, check this off, and do that. And then Sandy's super artistic, and she also like helped evolve the idea of the tic-tac-toe. And Melissa was super supportive with everything, and it was always like, okay, what do I do? She helped out with research. She did the original flow chart. She helped out with the peer reviews and everything. So I think that, and then of course, we all contributed our ideas. We were pretty vocal with one another and stuff like that. So I think
We did Zoom.
And
Yeah.
we did, yeah, we did.
Zoomed.
Yep. So our second reflection is just our areas of communication and how we communicated. I know that I actually was the one that chimed in and wanted to reorg some of the groups, and I thank Kayla for switching with me. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that literally Tanya and I are right around the corner from each other in the same building. So we did confer at work several times about it, which was nice. We did our initial meeting when we were all together. That was on Zoom. That was pretty cool. So we got a little familiarity there. was a little scary seeing yourself on the screen because we did have videos on, but we did it. Yeah.
I know, kids.
And we did utilize text messaging and Google Drive. We did our ID plan on Google Drive because when we were doing it in the wiki, it was hard because like people wanted to add
Yeah,
stuff
you
and we
couldn't
couldn't
edit
get
things
on
if
it.
someone else was at, so
So
this
much
way we
easier,
did it this
and-
way and then just.
I didn't realize on Google Drive too, you can all go on there at the same time and edit. We were doing that.
And we were
Oh,
chat, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see it where
Yeah,
See
where
what
they
everybody's
were.
doing. It was cool.
Yeah, and so like at one point, like Sandy was on when I was on, and we could chat in the chat box and stuff. So I'm pretty sure all you guys are familiar with that. And then in terms of our group dynamics, you know, we are like 4 very strong women, so we just were very mindful of always making sure that like, you know, do you feel included, or you know, am I taking over, or I appreciate your ideas and your comments and your feedback. So
Because strong could be bossy.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
so
and you
this-
see that nice picture? I was gonna put in a cat fight, but she wouldn't let me. I thought it was funny.
no. So we're all holding hands and loving each other. So
with our-
yes.
No, it was
But-
actually, honestly, we got along great. It was good.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with the game too. So I'm really happy
I am
with how
too.
it came out.
Yeah.
What like what would you say were maybe the most challenging aspects of the project from any perspective? Like were there places that felt like it took more work to get through them, or
I think just
did you-
deciding what to do. We had a lot of really good ideas.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
original idea was great, and then the new idea was great, and it was like, we can't do everything. We have
Right.
to figure out what
Right.
we want to do.
Deciding what to do, and also, even though we did utilize Zoom and texting and calling each other and whatever, we did a lot of, you know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I still felt like disconnected sometimes, you know, because
Yeah.
we're far away, you know? So it was hard
Yeah.
to.
And I didn't like
really
my
get
thing
things.
too is like too, you didn't wanna hurt, like, you know what I mean? Like we all had these ideas and it's like, how do you say it like that, you know what I mean? Like you don't
No.
or like what or two, like I wanna help, but I don't wanna take over. You know what I'm saying? Like you so that was kind of, you know, how much do you do without saying like, no. Like everyone wants to be a part. And that's because it's everyone's
we were.
project.
It
And
was
we
good.
were. So it all worked
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, and one thing that I could see with this, you've kind of created a framework for a game that could easily be
Anyway.
adapted to all sorts of different content. You know,
Oh,
it's kind of like having the
Yeah.
Jeopardy
where you
framework.
can just put your
If you have a different set of
like you
subject
could do
cards,
instead
there's-
of science, you could do all science cards instead
Yeah.
of, you know, art
That was-
terms or gym terms or
And I think also too, just like reflecting back, I don't know, because I'm big on like what's the objective. So like I just kind of kept going back and say, well, like how does this meet our goal? Like does it really fulfill the objective? And obviously we had our game objective, but we also had like our learner content objective as well. So in high school, like it's really focused a lot on that too. So so I thought it was a really great. I thought it ended up working out excellent, and we were able to incorporate a lot of Tanya's original idea, and then also kind of morph it into something that was a little bit more manageable for us as well. And it had benefits too, also changing and evolving. Time, though, I would say for me was the biggest
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
I'm just like overwhelmed out of my gourd. So
I
I
agree.
just,
These last couple of weeks, it's been like.
Yeah.
And it's
being
not
sick
just
on
that;
it.
it's at work. It's work too.
work.
It's
yeah.
it's
End of the
not.
year is
yeah.
awful.
It's
That's
just
what
it's
annual
balance.
reviews.
I'm like, when am
We
I
were
gonna
talking
do
about
this?
that.
Yeah.
So and having
Okay.
babies too.
Yeah.
Challenge.
So any questions from anyone in the
panel?
peanut gallery?
Our real panel.
It was great.
All right.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh,
I mean, I'm gonna take the game tonight. Do you guys want the game back?
I don't care.
I think Tanya would be the one to ask because she could use this in her class.
I have no, you can have it.
I don't need
No,
to keep them, but
Tanya, seriously.
That's a lot of work.
I mean, if you have
We'll talk about
if you've
it.
got all the
She
artwork and
wants it.
everything, they could be.
You can tell
But
she's
you
not.
can take it
Just give it
Yeah.
back to her.
Send me an email over the course of the week if you want me to bring it back in
Start
next week.
trying.
Because I can absolutely do that. I just want to have a week to kind of look at them. So, but like I said, there's a lot of hard work that's gone into these.
Do you want the bag that it
There's
comes in?
also, in this day and age, if you get an idea that you really think is working,
Teachers pay
there's always
teachers.
like, or Patreon or anything like that. Like if you could figure out a way to make sets of these and put them out there for the world to buy, you never know. Yeah, probably any of these. All right, give me one